I swear, I never meant for things to get this twisted. I didn't wake up one day thinking my heart would get tangled in something I couldn't explain. It just happened. After Mom passed, everything inside that house felt hollow. My dad and I tried to fill the silence she left behind. Dinners on the couch, late-night movies, small talk that always trailed off too soon. It was survival, not comfort. At least that's what I told myself. But grief has a strange way of blurring lines. The more time we spent together, the more I started to see parts of him I'd never noticed before. Not as a father figure, but as another soul drowning beside me. The strength I once leaned on now felt fragile. The man who always had the answers suddenly looked lost. And somehow, that made me want to protect him. Maybe that's where everything started to change. That night, I still remember the sound of rain against the windows, the way the old movie played in the background, one Mom used to love. I started crying halfway through it. He reached over, placed a hand on my shoulder, and told me it was okay to let it out. But instead of feeling comforted, something inside me broke open. Not love, not desire. Something darker. A dependence I couldn't name. If you want to know how we got there, how grief twisted into something unrecognizable, stay with me. This is the story of how comfort became confusion, how two broken people mistook pain for closeness, and how, by the time I realized it, I'd already lost a part of myself I couldn't get back. My name is Patricia. I'm 24. And before you judge me, please understand. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because maybe someone out there knows what it's like to lose yourself while trying to hold someone else together. I've deleted this recording 3 times already, because even now, the truth makes me sick, but I can't keep it in anymore. Before all this, I thought I understood heartbreak. I've been cheated on, ghosted, lied to. Each time convincing myself I could rebuild, but this time was different. This time, the person I leaned on the most became part of the pain. After Mom died, Dad wasn't just grieving her. He was disappearing, and I couldn't stand to lose him too. So, I stayed close. Too close. I cooked his meals, made sure he ate, checked in before bed. Every time he thanked me, I felt needed again, like I had a purpose. It became my routine, my comfort, my trap. The house felt safe again, but only because I refused to face what was happening inside me. He was gentle, quiet, broken, and in those moments, I saw my reflection in him. Two people who had forgotten where one ended and the other began. And that's the thing about grief. It doesn't always come with tears. Sometimes it disguises itself as love, and you don't realize you're drowning until it's too late. That night, the night everything changed, wasn't about passion or sin. It was about collapse. Two people reaching for warmth in a room that had grown unbearably cold. But once morning came, I couldn't even look at him. The silence between us wasn't comforting anymore. It was suffocating. If I could go back, I'd tell myself to stop trying to heal through someone else's pain. Because sometimes what we call connection is just loneliness wearing a familiar face. And once that line is crossed, even unintentionally, you can't go back to who you were before. The worst part was, I didn't want to stop it. Not the grief that I could never stop, but the way I was clinging to the only piece of warmth left in that cold house. When my mom passed, everything changed. And I don't just mean the photos on the wall or the half-empty perfume bottle on her dresser. I mean the air itself, the laughter, the scent of her cooking, the hum of her presence. All of it vanished in an instant. She died on a quiet Tuesday morning. I still remember Dad whispering, "It's okay, baby, you can let go." And she did, just like that. Watching him hold her for the last time broke something in me I didn't know could break. That image still plays behind my eyes when I close them. After the funeral, people came and went. The neighbors dropped off food we never touched. Relatives filled the house with soft condolences, then disappeared when the casseroles cooled. But once the door shut and the silence returned, that's when the real grieving began. I moved back home. It wasn't a decision. It was instinct. Dad looked lost, like someone had pulled the world out from under him and left him standing in the ruins. The first few weeks, he barely spoke. He'd just sit by the window, staring at the street like he expected Mom to walk back up the driveway. I tried to keep us going. I cooked, cleaned, turned on the TV just to make the house sound alive again. But nothing filled the quiet. At night, I'd hear him crying through the wall. Not loud, not dramatic, just broken, stifled sobs that somehow hurt worse because of how hard he tried to hide them. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked to his room and found him sitting on the edge of the bed, holding one of Mom's photos. His shoulders were trembling. The sight of him, this man I'd always seen as unshakable, shattered me. I didn't know what to say, so I just wrapped my arms around him. He froze for a moment, then finally collapsed into the embrace. We sat there for what felt like hours, just holding on to each other like two people trying not to drown. That night, I stayed, not out of comfort, but out of fear. Fear of what might happen if either of us had to face that darkness alone. From then on, the house felt different again. We talked more. Late into the night, we shared memories. The first time he met Mom, their first fight, how she laughed when he burned dinner. His stories were filled with love and longing, and every word reminded me of what we'd both lost. Sometimes, I'd catch myself wondering if I'd ever know love that deep, or if maybe, somewhere along the way, I'd started confusing grief with connection. Because the truth was, I didn't just miss Mom. I missed the version of myself that existed when she was alive. One evening, we sat on the porch as the sun went down. The sky was painted in gold, and for the first time in months, Dad looked peaceful. I watched the light hit his face, and I realized something. I wasn't just grieving her death anymore. I was grieving the family we used to be. The sense of safety that vanished with her. The roles that no longer made sense. That moment terrified me, because I finally understood. Grief doesn't always come as tears or silence. Sometimes, it sneaks in as dependence. A need so desperate to hold on to what's left that you start losing yourself in the process. That's what happened to me. I didn't cross a line that night, but something inside me shifted. The boundaries blurred. And from then on, I couldn't tell whether I was trying to save him or myself. And that scared me. I looked away, pretending to fix the blanket, pretending nothing inside me had changed. But something had. I could feel it in the quiet moments, in the way the air between us carried things neither of us knew how to name. It happened on a Saturday night. Rain again. Always rain when life decides to shift, isn't it? The house was silent except for the soft hum of the TV in the background. I came downstairs after a shower, still damp, wrapped in one of those oversized towels that felt more like armor than comfort. Dad was sitting on the couch, half watching a movie, the same one Mom used to love. He looked up when I walked in, and for a second, we just saw each other, not as parent and child, but as two people who'd been living inside the same grief for too long. The weight of it filled the room. Neither of us spoke. I could almost hear the silence breathing between us. I went to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, but it wasn't thirst that pulled me there. It was distance. I needed space to breathe, to remind myself that we were still separate people. But when I turned around, he was still there, eyes fixed on nothing, lost somewhere deep inside himself. Something in me broke. I walked back, sat beside him. The lamp cast a soft gold over everything, so warm, it almost felt like she was still with us. I said quietly, "You okay?" He nodded, but his voice cracked when he said, "I don't know how to do this without her." I wanted to say something comforting, something that made sense, but the truth was, I didn't know either. So, I did the only thing that felt right. I reached for his hand. He held on, hard, as if the contact alone might keep him from falling apart. That was all. Just two hands holding on in the dark. But even that simple touch felt complicated. It wasn't wrong. It was human. Two broken people trying to find balance in the same storm. We sat there for hours, not talking, just listening to the rain hit the windows. At one point, he whispered, "She'd be proud of you, you know." That undid me. Tears came before I could stop them. He pulled me close the way he used to when I was small, when monsters were under the bed instead of in our hearts. It wasn't passion. It wasn't anything like that. It was grief, raw and messy, wearing the mask of comfort. When I finally went to bed that night, I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed everything, the touch, the silence, the way our pain echoed off each other. I realized how fragile the line between love and dependence can become when you're both lost in the same sorrow. The next morning, the world looked the same, but nothing felt the same. We moved around each other like actors in a scene we didn't know how to play anymore. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was heavy. Days turned into weeks. We didn't talk about that night, though it lingered like fog. Sometimes I'd catch him watching me, his expression unreadable. Other times, I'd avoid his eyes altogether, afraid of what I might see reflected there, fear, guilt, or maybe recognition of the same confusion I carried. Eventually, I asked, "Dad, what are we doing? We can't keep pretending everything's fine." He exhaled, long and shaky. "I know," he said. We miss her, and sometimes it feels like we're trying to find pieces of her in each other." That hit me hard because it was true. Our grief had tangled together until I couldn't tell where his pain ended and mine began. We talked for hours that night, about Mom, about loss, about learning to stand on our own again. It wasn't easy, but it was real. We promised to get help, to untangle what grief had knotted inside us, and that's why I'm telling this story. Not because it's pretty, it isn't, but because grief can blur everything if you let it. You start mistaking pain for connection, silence for peace, and comfort for love. If you've ever lost someone and felt yourself slipping into someone else's sorrow just to feel less alone, know this: you're not broken, you're human. But you have to learn when to step back, to heal separately before the pain becomes something you can't name. So, tell me, have you ever held on too tightly to someone because you were afraid of losing yourself completely? Share your thoughts below. Maybe together we can figure out where healing really begins.